Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Constructed in the 1980s, Jerez has become one of the premier circuits in Spain, hosting a wide variety of series from touring cars to motorbikes and even Formula 1, with memorable moments scattered across every series. Tonight, Apex Racing League makes its debut as the GT3 trophy rolls in for round 5 of the championship. This broadcast being brought to you on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Ron Mons, with Lee Thompson providing the stream. And Ron, it is a pleasure to be at this circuit. I'm an absolute massive fan. I was hyped when it was announced, this circuit. I find it a fantastic flowing circuit. It's not too wide, which is my sticking point with lots of tracks nowadays. It's that they're too wide. This place nice and narrow. It's a driver's circuit. Overtaking will be tricky, but I think hopefully the drivers will really enjoy tackling the two races we have tonight.
I'll tell you, Sam, my personal opinions on this track, it's definitely an old school style circuit, tighter, not a whole lot of asphalt runoff area to speak of all throughout this course. Of course, you have a small couple of patches here and there, but usually it's just gravel and grass to go off, so these drivers don't really have much margin for error when it comes to going off the track. But we will see, as you can see, the blue shoulders on the side of the track. I think we'll see a lot of interesting interpretations of track limits all throughout tonight's race. But I think we'll have a very unique style of racing that we haven't seen all throughout most of the season. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be with you for the Watkins Glen round, but I have gotten the chance to look back on last week's race, and I'll say the tight, twisty nature that kind of shifted up the order, I think is definitely going to be put under a magnifying glass tonight, which is racing here, very old school track, very tight and twisty, and certainly a unique circuit in the world of motorsports.
Yeah, really is a very unique circuit, and yeah, compared to the circuits that we've visited already, I mean, Watkins Glen sure was a step up when it came to the complexity of the circuit compared to the others like Spa and Fuji and Road America, but this is a whole new level in comparison and will really test the cars in a different way, and perhaps will produce a different pecking order compared to normal. Well, at the moment, we have got the pro drivers exiting the pits for their qualifying times, and this is their section of qualifying. So all the pro-ams and all the AMs have already set their qualifying, and we're now seeing the drivers on their outlap in the pros. Really, in previous rounds, maybe it's all right to get a bit of a draft. I think around here, though, Ron, you just want to get some clean space. But a few of these drivers wanting to get that draft, this man absolutely fine out in front, and yeah, wanting to get that time in first off of anyone does one.
It's a nice balance that you have to strike at a track like this. You mentioned how a lot of the circuits that we've run on so far this season are more straight line dependent. You look at the tracks we've raced at so far this year, Fuji, Spa, and Road America were really the big ones that are really important. The straight line, you want to be in the draft for as long as you can. But at a track like this, where, as you mentioned, very tight, twisty, definitely a big departure from what we saw in the first 3 races of this season, I think these drivers are going to try and build up a little bit of a gap to try and get some clean air on their noses. Certainly in these GT3 cars, the aerodynamics are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's, well, so far we've had absolutely dominant performances from Antonino Sammarco. He's not going to put in a very strong time though to start off this qualifying session. You can see him just pulling off to the inside, but we might be able to have a look at his championship lead as it stands in the series, because he has been totally in a class of his own, frankly, and will be very tricky to catch from this point onwards in the series, because over 100 points clear in the championship, and of course he didn't win both races last time out, but still he's undefeated so far this season when it comes to first races in in each meeting. It's only the reverse grid which has denied him the top step on the podium so far.
He's put together a fantastic season. Sorry about that. Sound like an 80-year-old smoker there briefly. But yeah, Sammarco has been an absolutely fantastic driver. Definitely the gold standard so far this season. He has put that McLaren on track, and he has been a force to be reckoned with all throughout this season. So I gotta say that even though tonight's race running at this track will be a bit of a departure from what we've seen throughout most of the season, I think Sammarco is still definitely going to be on my radar as we go through tonight's broadcast.
Yeah, he will be very tricky to beat. He's just starting his lap time now, and yeah, we'll be looking to get a little bit further up there. At the moment, it's Biasati on pole position, followed by Eric Rosset, so that strong time from the Pro-Am driver, currently holding up very strong. Then it's Isaacson in 3rd position, Castellozzi, Montini, Beifeld, Scoret, Otterholt, and David. Moldecleve top of the amateur drivers at the moment. Well, he will remain as top of the amateur drivers, but at the moment he is in 11th position overall, which would be a nice place for him to start. Kazuki Fujita, he's been a big rival so far this season, has had some good results, a couple of podiums to his name, has also been involved in a couple of incidents though recently, Ron, both at Road America and Watkins Glen being wiped out in the early stages. He'll be looking for a safe run of things and a return to the top 5.
Yeah, I think in a series like this, which is extremely competitive, in GT3 racing, where anything can happen in these races, regardless of whether we're running at Spa, where it was about a 90-minute long race, or here, where we have 2 heats that are pretty short compared to some of the races we've run. You definitely want to be consistent. You always want to be there, regardless of what position you're running in. It's best to just have a clean day, and as the old saying goes, to finish first you have to finish. So I'm sure Fujita is going to look for it, look to have a clean day. Anders Meyer is having a fast day, fast qualifying session at least, as he sets the fastest time in this session.
Yeah, that's a very strong time there from Anders Meyer, and immediately toes back to the pits to get a new set of tyres on that car. And we'll get back out there very soon as well. We've got another 6 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, as Sammarco, with his first time, moves up to 4th position. But the man who has taken pole position in every round so far this season, currently 4/10 best parts, or 4/10 of a second off the top step. So this would be quite an upset. However, we were half expecting this. The McLaren's specs not necessarily well matching to this Jerez circuit. Here's Kieran Smart, the Scottish driver, as per, always next to Ethan Bass. The 2 Scottish drivers are always with one another, usually in the outskirts of the top 10. They've got a lot of work to do, currently sitting outside the top 30, but Smart so far improving on this attempt.
A smart racing for Team Scotland, who has had a very chaotic year, I would have to say. They were involved in a few incidents throughout some of the races. I think both of them had their fair share of incidents at the Fuji round a couple weeks ago, but sure, they're definitely looking to have a good race here in Jerez. Can't really compare. It's comparing the race we might see tonight to the rest of the races we've seen so far this season, it's like comparing bowling and curling because they involve throwing some kind of object and some kind of sheet of some kind of material. So I think it's definitely going to be a big departure tonight compared to some other compared to the racing that we've seen so far throughout this season. We'll just have to see. Right now, it's very competitive at the moment. You have you can look through the top 10 on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see a nice mix there of the Pro-Am drivers and the Pro drivers, which was always good to see some interclass mingling there. So we'll have to see how that plays out throughout this race. Certainly this man, Marcus Byfeld, a couple weeks ago in Road America, he was really giving the Pro drivers a run for their money. I believe he finished top 5 overall and obviously first of the Pro-Am drivers. So this man has always been pretty fast in this series and has definitely impressed me in his very brief time so far in the ARL GT3 trophy.
Yeah, he has been extremely quick. I'm surprised he's as far as 0.8 of a second off as he takes almost the extra lane up there. That's the sort of joker lap penalty lane for the MotoGP drivers if they go over track limits or if they do something against the rules. And he was nearly that far up, but you would get a slowdown if you decide to take quite that wide an entry. Marcus Gunzelman, he is doing the same. Or is that just the racing line, perhaps? Taking the very late apex, it might help him across the line. Let's see how fast this lap time is going to be for him. Was it a fast lap? He crossed the line? I think it was. However, it wasn't faster than his previous time. About 0.8 of a second off at the moment is the court sim racing driver. As Biasetti, so far not improving on this lap. Seeing anyone else who can improve, perhaps Antonino Samarco, who's lined up behind him. Samarco with a couple of personal best sectors. Yeah, we'll see if anyone can get close to Meyer's time, who has now been pole position for about 5 minutes.
And that's a very good time there from Meyer. That's one of the biggest gaps that we've seen up at the front of this field, and certainly this man, Antonio Samarco, has been up at the front quite a lot this season, but right now sitting in the 4th position. We'll have to see what he does on this lap. I believe because we cut the session off so quickly as we hit the 32-minute mark of this qualifying session, I believe drivers are starting their last lap, so we'll have to see if there's any kind of field shuffling. Certainly this man, Kettle Larson, will try and look to improve his time and maybe even break into the top 20, so we'll have to see. And that's Saxon there managing to get ahead of Samarco, and now Samarco drops off of the 2nd row and is clinging onto a top 5 starting position right now.
Yeah, really strong performance there from Isaacs. I'm not sure if he's going to have another push lap or whether that will be it for him in this session. Taj Edwards for Orion Race Team. He's also pushing along Orion with a couple of strong drivers in this series. Edwards along with Fujita, who we had images of earlier on. But you're absolutely right in terms of your comments about their final laps. Everyone who's starting a lap now or has started a lap in the last minute or so are on their final lap right now. And Edwards, so this is pretty much all that he has got left for him. The likes of Byfeld might be able to get in another lap as well if he can start it on the next time. This is where the circuit narrows up a little bit, gets a little bit more complex, but thankfully we're not using the chicane and the drivers can really let loose through this fast right-hander. Not quite flat out in these GT3 cars, however the second part of it will just about be. And then you got to get all stopped for the final corner, which is a big overtaking opportunity. Maybe the second best chance on the entire circuit.
I gotta imagine, you mentioned pretty much right at the start of this broadcast how overtaking might be difficult for some of these drivers. So I think that last corner is definitely going to be a good one. We might see some of that come up towards the end of the race. We'll have to see if drivers try and look for a lunge there coming into the final corner. But I think not a whole lot of heavy braking zones. Usually most of this track is just flowing medium speed corners, but you do have some heavy braking zones sprinkled all throughout this track, as you mentioned, the final corner, which is definitely going to be very important. Turn 13 we'll see a lot of overtaking, along with turn 1 I feel, and probably turn 6 will be the biggest overtaking opportunity as they go down that very fast back straightaway and have to get on the brakes hard to get about 3,000 pounds of metal stopped to get around that corner. So we'll have to see if those 3 corners really are the strong overtaking opportunities, or we could see some drivers go for some lunges and maybe turn 2, let's say. That's certainly an overtaking opportunity. And if we do see something like that, I think we'll see a lot of passing. Well, not a lot of passing, but I think we'll see a lot of battling as well, because if you look at turn 2, you've got a nice series of sweeping corners that follow, so I think that will lead to some very interesting battling if anyone tries to sneak it down the inside of turn 2.
That should be the end of qualifying now. Kjetil Larsen isn't going to be able to complete this last attempt, and Ethan Bass only just starting his final lap time. So that is pretty much the grid that we have for this round of the championship. Late improvements, by the way, for Carl Winkler. You probably saw he moved up a couple of places for Core Sim Racing. Fujitsu was able to improve as well, but it did not send him any further up. As the pace car is sat on the grid, we'll do the final sector pretty much, and then we'll get into this race 1 of the evening, this first race, 30 minutes in length. And for the first time this season, it is not a McLaren on the front row of the grid. It's Anders Meyer for Racing Lab Esports, the man who's finished second in the out of the 3 60-minute events we've had so far this season. He is up top to start this round 5 of the championship. Behind him is Christian Biasetti, Eric Rosseth, Niels Erik Isaacson, and our resident pole man, Antonino Sammarco. Behind him is Thomas Bangen, there's Roberto Castellozzi, Tommaso Montini, Marcus Beifeld, Stephen David rounding out the top 10. There's Scarrett, Winkler, Fujita a little bit further down than where you would expect him. There's Otterholt, Bjorkland, Mulder is top of the amateur drivers. There's Gunzelman, Crook, Edwards, De Boyver, Yanni, Willems, David Vey, who was ever so strong in qualifying last time out, not replicating that qualifying performance this time. Larson, Tarushki, Verm, Livingston, Horg, Bass, Wyness, Asfalg, Smart, way down the order. I think he'll probably be top 15 by the end. Then it's Pugh, Devlamnik, Leo, Bevans, and K. Brow rounding out the 37 cars.
And a quick little mention there as we see Bevans in the 36th position. This was kind of a running joke running from the other Road America race. Koala.
Koala.
Yeah, Koala. I always gotta say Koala. You mentioned it on the other Road America broadcast. It's just a fun word to say. You can't say the animal koala. You have to kind of really enunciate the Q there. So you gotta do the koala there. So it's a fun word to say. Nice creative team name there. Always like a bit of lightheartedness here in the series.
It's real nice. Someone try to say that without smiling. It's impossible. One wonderful word. The driver's just pulling away now. We didn't actually mention, or I didn't mention, Eric Rosseth. What a qualifying for him, up in 3rd position for this race run. And frankly, I think he's going to be up there, for the whole time. I don't expect necessarily anyone to be out of position, apart from maybe a couple of the pros further down. I think Rosseth absolutely earning that second row of the grid.
Yeah, I certainly think so. He put together a very convincing drive and put together a very good lap to put himself in the 3rd position. We'll have to see how the Porsches are in this race. Certainly a lot of the Porsches are up towards the front, so we'll have to see if those Porsche 911s are the cars to be reckoned with in tonight's race.
So round the final corner, they now lead, and he'll wait for the green flag, or maybe go a little bit earlier than that, Anders Meyer, and he does go fairly early. We are underway here at Jerez for the first time in Apex Racing League, and it's a poor start for Biasetti. So Rosseth already up to 2nd place. Marco looking to get on the inside, he's even on the grass as he goes alongside 2 of the IGL coatings drivers. They may well make contact. They did make contact, and they both lost time on exit. Dreadful start for the 2 Porsches right at the beginning. The front sort of 10 just spreading out quite significantly, but too wide heading into turn 2 further down the order, and into turn 3 they may much get into single file and then flow through the left and the right and on to the back straight for the first time.
I had a bad feeling about that. I just saw a small little glimpse of the 3-wide action there with Biasetti and Sammarco there as they went through turn 1, went into turn 1. You saw Sammarco there clip the grass a little bit, doing a bit of lawn mowing there, bit of lawnmower action going into turn 1. Got 3 wide and had a small little scuffle. We will hopefully get a replay to see what happened there, but we got some more battling here with the Porsches right outside the other top. We've got battles all throughout the field. I believe Wangen has made some kind of mistake. You saw him dropping through the order, dropping like a lead balloon, so we'll have to see what happened to him there. Certainly tough break for a lot of these drivers, and a very tight course like Jerez is. We were expecting a bit more contact than we've seen throughout most of the season, and so far this race we've definitely seen a couple incidents all throughout this field.
A couple of moves into the final part of the lap where it starts to narrow up. Stuart Wyness up 3 places. The driver who we were riding on board with, who lost out in the turn 6 hairpin, was Stephen David, dropped just 1 position. However, but near the front, Biasetti looking to try to get that 2nd place right back. It was an early launch for Mike, caught out Biasetti. He was slightly napping on the race start. Roseth was able to get through, but now he's starting to use that easy defensive maneuvers here at Jerez. It is tricky to overtake, and Roseth surviving the first challenge right there.
Certainly, Roseth, the first few corners here are very important. Certainly turn 1, just a braking zone there, because if you're ahead, you really have... you're just in charge for the most part for the next like third of a lap before they go into the braking zone at turn 6. So turn 1 is definitely very important. I mentioned how a few of those corners, the last corner of turn 14, the first corner obviously of turn 1, and then the corner that some of these drivers are about to hit here of turn 6, they're going to be very important for overtaking, but they're also going to be very important for defending as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of attempted overtakes here. Certainly seeing an attempted overtake here on Willems there. It looks like that's Vey trying to get past. I believe he does get past there with a fairly textbook move there, but it's not over yet. Those drivers go side by side there, going through the sweeper of turn 7 and then into turn 8. Turn 8 is definitely... It's nice. These two corners are definitely different from each other. The first one is definitely a lot looser, but those drivers still going side by side. There's contact there. David Vey down the inside and manages to bump into Willems there as they go into turn 8, I believe that was. So those drivers making contact in the very early stages of this race. Certainly tough break there for Willems.
P2 as well, as Roseth has got past Biasetti. Well, that looked like a fairly similar move. Contact once again, this time at the final corner, and Sir Marco will use all the grunts of that McLaren to try to move past as well, not giving up on it whatsoever. Is the Pro-Am driver. Has Sir Marco got it stopped? He hasn't. He runs wide, our championship leader, and he does drop back into 4th position. Good hustling there from Biasetti in order to keep that one honest. So Roseth, apologies, managed to hold on to that 2nd place, but Biasetti came ever so close to being able to break the duck.
Again, a replay here of the incident that happened to Wangen towards the start of this race. You can see he's down 29 positions from where he started.
So this is on Stephen David earlier on, and then just getting that contact. Oh, big shame there for Wangen. You can see he's down 29 places now.
Tough for these drivers. A lot of drivers going off at this stage of the very early stage of this race. So certainly a lot of these drivers are going to look for a better heat too. Certainly. Replay here again of a pass.
So yeah, this is Roseth holding on, and you can see the move underneath, and a bit of contact between the two of them. Would not have been happy with that whatsoever, would Biasetti, and Roseth holds on to P2, but that's the opportunities you get into the final corner, that late dive, and it very nearly worked out, and then Sir Marco covering it off, but ended up outbreaking himself.
And I'll tell you, with the amount of drivers making contact in this early stage of this race, it feels like a NASCAR short track race rather than an ARL GT3 race. So a lot of these drivers getting their elbows out. Certainly not saying these drivers are dirty by any means, but they're definitely getting their elbows out, trying to push past each other. And even though this first heat is only 25 minutes, these drivers are definitely going to try and get a move on here, and they're trying to shuffle for every position they can. It's some brilliant stuff so far this race.
Moldecleve versus Fujita. This is not a battle we were anticipating. Moldecleve usually outside the top 20, and Fujita usually up inside the top 5. But they are absolutely battling for position right now, and it's Fujita who's managing to get ahead. Some fantastic racing between the two of them, and now he might lose out to his own teammate there, as the move from Bjorklund it gets past, and Gunzelman will try to make the move as well for 15th position. Is he going to run out of space? He does just a little bit. He had to get other thoughts or ever so slightly there, did Gunzelman, but the move opportunities are not over yet, and he will know that the Porsche will have to break a little bit earlier in order not to hit his teammate ahead. Manages to get him offline, but this is where it starts to tighten up once again. And looks like the BMW driver may have to wait behind. Half chance at a dive into this one. You can take many alternative lines, maybe the wide entry, but Moldecleve taking a fairly early apex, and the opportunity was never presented to him.
And what we saw there coming out of turn 6, I don't know if you got a chance to see that, Sam, as they were going side by side there as Moldecleve kind of missed the turn there. It looks like he's nearly going to lose a position. They were going side by side. But what we saw was Gunzelman getting very flirtatious with the back of Moldecleve's car there when they exited turn 6. I was expecting a bump and run. We've seen that already in this race, though. As I mentioned last lap, some of these drivers getting their elbows at, and certainly these two drivers here of Moldecleve and Gunzelman battling as they continue to do there, as Gunzelman gets a move done on Moldecleve as he overshot that last corner, and now I think he might be at risk of losing another position to Christopher Crook there in the Porsche behind. We've got two Porsches and a BMW battling right now, and we're only 6, nearly 7 minutes into this race.
And that will be the lead for the amateur drivers as well, between Moldecleve, Crook and De Boyver, so a lot at stake in that fight. And well, just the one retiree, and so far it's a little bit disappointing who it is. Alex Bevans of Kuala is back into the pits, so that might be the end of the Kuala for today, unfortunately.
Do we do an inadvertent jinx when we just said koala before the start of this race? I'm not really sure what happened. Might have been some kind of connectivity issues. We've seen some hardware failures throughout this season. Certainly tough. A lot of those drivers have run into those issues, and it's just something you can't control. So I gotta wonder what happened to him to take him out of this race so early on. But tough break there for Koala. We can't really mention him. We can only mention him throughout the rest of this first heat in memoriam.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. Now you will be back hopefully for race 2, which will be half an hour in length, and of course for that race 2 will be a top 10 reverse grid as well, so that 10th place in this race 1 ever so important, currently occupied by Carl Winkler. Here is Marcus Beifelt, not his best round. He made his debut a couple of weeks ago at Road America and backed up that performance with a strong showing at Watkins Glen despite some adversity at the start of the first race. But currently running in 8th place, has not been able to get past Roberto Castellozzi though for this entire event. And he's got Stephen David, who he did manage to get past, I think, a little bit earlier on, sat on his rear wing as it stands. But it's just a long queue of cars. Really everyone, basically, all the gaps are close. All the gaps are less than a second, and you can see the track map right there. Besides Meyer being able to stretch his legs a bit out in the lead, pretty much everyone else is within a second of one.
What I think is going to hurt a lot of these drivers is them being stuck in the train of cars. You can see on the track map just a massive train throughout all of this field. I'm sure some of those drivers are going to be struggling badly for grip. They're going to be putting a lot of load on their tires. And certainly Castellozzi put a lot of load on his tires, put a lot of OPR or other people's rubber on his tires as he went wide, coming through turn 6, and loses that position to Marcus Beifelt. So now Castellozzi drops out of the top 7, falls down to P8, but still currently running 3rd in the Pro-Am category, so can't really call it a bad race from him so far. But oh boy!
For Davids, and that will upset our top 10 field as well. I know there's contact. Was that Alexander Skuret or Otterholt? I'm not quite sure, and that might require.
I believe it was Otterholt. Yeah,
David
you can see. There you go. There was him going straight on at the next corner, so he must have picked up some front end damage. Now we're seeing some beat and banging here towards the front. There's Antonio Samarca nearly pushing Montini all the way into the grass there. I believe he did push him into the grass. There's a bit of contact there, so I'm sure Montini is not going to be very pleased there with his fellow competitor there, but they're shuffling all over the track. This is some very tense stuff here. I believe all these drivers, I believe all of them might have been involved in the lap 1 schism there as they went through turn 1 3 wide on lap 1. So I think there might be some flaring emotions here with this battle here between P4, P5, and P6.
Yeah, certainly Isaacson was involved in that skirmish with Samarca. Samarca managing to come out on top of it because he was on the inside, and the two IGL Coatings Porsches made contact with one another. And, yeah, caused them to drop down slightly, but this is such a contrast, and it really does just demonstrate the difference between the cars. Samarca has been so dominant so far this season, particularly the first 3 rounds, and tonight he is 6.5 seconds off the lead within 10 minutes of race 1. Might give himself a chance of winning his first race 2 of the season at least, but I think even that would be a long shot. As see Toroshki, I think maybe just passing Ethan Bass. Bass certainly seemed very slow coming out of that previous corner. Toroshki currently in 21st position. Our highest gainer so far, or highest gainers, are Ethan Bass, up 7 places, and Kieran Smart. And in fact, we've got 3 Scottish drivers tonight within 4 places of one another. So Stuart Wyness has very much joined the Scottish club, as we have Niels Erik Isaacson trying to pass Tommaso Montini. Now this will be very tricky for the 107 to be able to pull off this move on the outside. iRacing fairly generous when it comes to the off-tracks around this part of the circuit, but even with that, Isaacson not able to get ahead. And well, he will try it again, but if anything, he's going to have to be looking more in his mirrors at Byfeld and looking ahead at Montini.
I thought Byfeld was going to look for the move there around the outside coming through turn 3. I was about to say that wouldn't have been the smartest move in the world, because going through that corner, you could just as easily get pushed off into the gravel. And as we saw all throughout practice, once you dip a wheel into the gravel, you're usually in for a world of hurt. So thankfully, Byfeld, for his sake, he is staying behind. I think he's biding his time here, certainly, or coming up to the halfway mark of this heat, but certainly these drivers have a lot more time to go with. I gotta imagine the heat style format, the 2 heat races instead of just having one 60-minute showdown here on the ARL GT3 Trophy Series. I gotta imagine that could be part of the reason why we're seeing some more impatience from these drivers, and certainly frayed nerves, as we saw drivers being and banging, and they're only halfway through this race. So I'll ask you this, Sam. Do you think the change in format, going from much shorter races, from the 60-minute races that we had throughout the earlier part of this year, do you think that's a reason why some of these drivers are a bit more impatient tonight than they have been in the past?
I think they're having to get their elbows out in order to make any overtakes. I think before, earlier on in the season, when you had like Fuji, for example, you could sort of just drive up to the back of someone and it was impossible to defend, and so you didn't really have to push it. I think tonight the drivers are having to be a bit more bold on the brakes in order to be able to make moves, and that's forcing them to slide a bit more and risk contact a few more times. Albeit, I think on the most part, racing so far, fairly good quality. We see Gordon Hawk battling with one of his compatriots, Thomas Asfalk, behind him at the moment. This is the battle for 26th and 27th. Albeit Kieran Smart and Stuart Wyness. Wyness sort of leading this train of cars and struggling to get away from them. And it might even be worth Track Scotland potentially swapping those cars around, because Smart looks a little bit faster, and of course is the pro driver compared to the pro-am of Wyness.
You're mentioning team orders there, Sam. I don't think, personally, I'm going to plug my ears and run and hide whenever I hear the mentioning of team orders, but I'm sure these drivers are definitely going to consider it. I'm sure Smart is getting a little bit impatient being stuck behind his teammate. It looks like he's going to try and change that there as it go into turn 6, I believe. Yeah, Kieran Smart gets a move done. That was fairly uncontested there from Stuart Wyness, so I got to imagine maybe something went down there, or maybe it's just that was interesting. It looked like Smart was given a really big dab of brakes there. It looked like there was nearly contact between those 2 drivers as they entered turn 7, but that was definitely a very easy move there from Kieran Smart to get by his Track Scotland teammate. So certainly not saying that they would do any team orders, but that did look fairly easy overtake there as they went to turn 6.
Very close once again with Isaacson and Byfeld. I think they're just going through the final corner at the moment. Currently, Montini, Isaacson and Byfeld separated by just half a second, but again, no moves into the first corner. I think turn 2 is very much where you can mug a driver, just go for a surprise overtake. Now them taking up on that this time. And it is an unusual circuit. We're seeing a lot of drivers misjudge the braking, considering that this track doesn't really have many straights. It is surprisingly testing when it comes to the brakes. There are a fair few zones where you do have to decelerate very quickly. Is a really good soft circuit to test a car, I think. Of course, Formula 1 testing here as recently as the early 2010s, even though they haven't raced here since that very infamous 1997 event, as Isaacson has another look, and you can tell Montini just turning into the corner ever so slightly a bit earlier, just to ensure that any temptation Isaacson had was quickly quashed.
Yeah, I'll tell you, at some tracks throughout this season, you can't really get a good gauge on what the other drivers are thinking and what the other drivers' pace is and their strengths and weaknesses. But as you mentioned, this track is very good for testing cars. You have a mix of high-speed corners, low-speed corners, tight corners, open corners, long straightaways, and sweeping sections. So this is definitely a track that tests the car, tests the driver, and definitely tests the driver's confidence in their race car. Certainly this man Isaacson has a lot of confidence there as he goes for the send there on Montini there, but unfortunately for him, Byfeld manages to get by him because Isaacson just went for the send of a lifetime there, but unfortunately for him, he ends up losing a position to Byfeld right as he gained that one on Montini.
I don't know if that was deliberate or not. I mean, it came from so far behind. I almost wasn't paying attention when it happened because it was so unexpected, and there was a slight move to the middle of the circuit as well from Montini in order to apologies from Montini to cover it off. But yeah, incredible stuff there from Isaacson, but he didn't really make the apex whatsoever. And well, it's Montini who loses out significantly there. Byfeld not doing a whole lot. He's up to 5th position. However, nonetheless, he now leads this train and might have hoped that he could catch up to Samarco. But here it was again, and Byfeld just having this one absolutely easy as anything coming to him. And yeah, that was over ambitious, I think, from the IGR Coatings car.
Over-ambitious, definitely, but that was a very bold move. You gotta give him credit for at least going for it. That was a send and a half there. That was unbelievable. Just looking at that, I was like, my screen just glitch out? Like, am I seeing something that isn't actually happening? But no, it turns out that Isaacson went for the send there on Montini, and even though it didn't work, I still have to give him props. I'll give him a quick little 2-clap round of applause there because that was just an absolutely bold move, and even though it didn't work out too well for him, I gotta give him props for at least sending it and even making the corner, because that send like that going into the final corner, you're lucky to make the corner like he did.
I think that Stuart Wyness has dropped off this pack then. I think he was with Smarts earlier on, but then there was a change of position again between the two, and it looked like Wyness got back past Smarts, and then has dropped back by about 5 seconds. So he's no longer with these Jerez. Instead, Smart leading Hawk and then Asphalt in 26th place. But there might be a change here for 26th because Stephen David, who was running as high as 8th position early on, he's got damage on his car, but that's not stopping him from being able to go for an overtake. And he does get alongside, but this move takes a while to execute, because they'll go through turn 2, but then that turns into the outside for turn 3. It might only be turn 4 and turn 5 where he finally gets it done, but in fact, the Lamborghini still is not able to pass, and we'll have to wait most likely to the turn 6 hairpin and hope that that damage won't affect his top line speed too much. Out in lead, and as Mike absolutely dominating. This is on course for being, well, at least the biggest kind of shorter race victory distance so far this season. Basically, he's way ahead is the point I'm trying to make. He's 4 seconds ahead, very dominant from the Norwegian.
We could definitely see a lot change in the other final stages of this race, but certainly this man, Anders Myers, put together a very quiet and a very dominant drive throughout tonight's race, but certainly behind him, these drivers are going to be battling hard. They've been close all throughout this race. Eric Rosseth and Sadi there, so we'll have to see if these drivers battle in the final 5.5 minutes of this race. But touching back on a point that you mentioned about a lap ago with Stuart Wyness, I did a little bit of looking on our live timing screen. He had set a 1 minute 45 second lap time a few laps ago, which when the pole speed was very fast, well, like mid 130s, and the fastest lap throughout a lot of these for a lot of these drivers is a 137. Setting a 145, you have to wonder if he made some kind of mistake or if the team somehow filled his car with milk instead of fuel for that one lap. So tough for him. He was battling with his teammate there. So unfortunately for him, he has now dropped back of that pack and is now just barely in the top 30, I believe.
Still leading in the amateur category is Simon Muldercleave. He's been just a touch ahead of Cook for this entire race. However, Kim-Andre Bjorklund seemingly has had an issue. I wonder if we'll come across him in a few moments' time. I think Bjorklund getting back up to speed now, but that must have been an issue at the final, at the hairpin. Here is Bjorkman. Actually, it was a little bit before that, so maybe going off the circuit at turn 5. And we will get a replay of exactly what happened to him. He was all by himself. And, well, this next right-hander is so tricky to get on the power at the right time. It's blind pretty much until you are on corner exit, and he's just had a little bit of oversteer, had to turn out of it, and lost all that momentum on the next straight.
Yeah, that was a big snap. He called that perfectly. I was fully expecting him to have just run wide, got caught on the gravel, and then lose a lot of time just trying to rejoin the track. But no, it was a massive snap there coming through turn 5, which is not a corner you want to have a snap on. But now he is still confident in his race car, even though he had that big moment there, and he's looking to get past Christopher Crook there, and does so at the final corner and moves back up into the 14th position. So I'm sure Kim Andre Bjorklund, after that small little incident for him that loses him a couple of spots, I'm sure he's going to look for some kind of redemption, certainly in the final few minutes of this heat, and then definitely going into Heat 2 later tonight.
I think that final hairpin is really fun. This circuit has a good sense of speed. I think some circuits are very quick, but they don't feel quick. This circuit, because of just the scenery and because of the fact that the corners are almost all high speed or medium speed, and the fact that the corners come at you so quickly as well, there's very few kind of straights, it does feel absolutely rapid. And so diving on the inside for that final corner is a very attractive move, always very good looking, as ahead of Bjorklund is Gunzelman versus Modicleve. So Modicleve, he's not even far away from the reverse grid pole as it stands, but he could get past Gunzelman. This would be for 12th position, and he's getting underneath now. Has the BMW driver done enough to cover it off? It looks like he has done for the time being, but this is going to be losing them a lot of time, and going side by side through here would be an absolute killer for their pace. And I think wisely choosing to back out there Mordecai, because this is probably the least satisfying part of the circuit, the double right-handers. And then, yeah, once again opens up. Gunzelman holding on to 12th position, but this train could get up to 17th by the end, as there's a huge train behind Nick Yanni for 19th position. I think there's about 4 cars all in the same couple of meters squared at the moment for 19th position. But, well, we'll see if Gunzelman can hold on here for 12th position. He'll be under pressure into turn 1. But as they start their 15th lap of this race, they have maintained that 12th place.
Andre Bjorklund made a mistake a couple laps ago, but he may have been down at that point, but he is definitely not out of it. As those drivers are battling ahead, he is closed up, or we're seeing some more battling farther down the field. This is outside the top 20 here, with Smart leading this pack, the other Team Scotland driver. Saw him battling many laps ago with his teammate, but unfortunately his teammate isn't there to battle with him or be a line of defense. So right now, Smart is going to be at risk here of losing a couple spots here. If he makes some small little mistake, he's at risk of losing quite a few spots. In fact, he could probably drop out of the drop back to his teammate, who's currently running in the 29th position. So I'm sure Kieran Smart is not going to be, he's definitely not going to hope that he has some kind of incident like that, but it can definitely happen at a very challenging circuit like this with these cars. Their tires are probably screaming in pain at this point. These tires don't really have any point to rest at a track like this, so I'm sure the grip is low for some of these drivers, and they're going to be on edge for the final few seconds of this race.
The move again from Isaacson. This is the one that he didn't really pull off very cleanly earlier on, but I think he's going to pull it off cleanly this time. Did get it stopped. And Marcus Beifeld, who so far in his short Apex Racing League career has established himself as a fairly passive driver. Let's see if he's going to show some more aggression this time. Into turn 1, that seems to be absolutely impenetrable. If you have the inside for turn 1, it is impossible to attempt the alternative line. And Beifeld is remaining in 5th position, and up 4 places from his race start would be some result for him, and that's good news as well for championship leader Antonino Sammarco, because that battling has allowed him to pull away by a few tenths of a second.
Gotta imagine if you're Marcus Beifeld, you might try not to defend too much on the likely attack that Isaacson is going to have when they enter turn 6 here on the last lap, and then maybe just stay behind Isaacson for the multiple series of corners and then try and get back at him at the final corner, because he can't really defend a move like that. So we'll have to see what happens towards that front pack. Right now we're seeing a battle in the midfield here, the battle we were following a couple laps ago outside of the top 20 here. with just a whole bunch of cars running 25th and lower, I believe. Smart has pulled away a little bit from this battle. You can see the damage that David has from that small little half-spin incident he had a couple laps ago. So he is definitely having a tough race, but this man had a very easy race. Anders Meyer started from the pole, had a very quiet day, and is going to take the win here in Heat 1 in pretty dominant fashion there, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely perfect driving from Anders Meyer. He's had some setbacks so far this season. It was a very disappointing Watkins Glen round for him, but his second race one of the season was much more positive. Roseth with his best result of the season, that will help him in the Pro-Am Championship. Meanwhile, Muldercleave, he is going to be able to get past Gunzelman unless Gunzelman has a lot more power than I expected him to have. But brilliant drive there from Simon Muldercleave to get 12th position on the final corner. He was faster than Gunzelman. The BMW driver defended very sternly, but it wasn't enough to get him ahead at the checkered flag. Oracle finished in 26th position ahead of Vangen, Asfalg, Wynette and Willems rounding out the top 30. The top 10 was ended by Carl Winkler, who will get the reverse grid pole. So no AMs in the reverse grid. However, there are 3 Pro AMs, so good result for a few of those drivers. We'll head over to an advert now, just while we have a small break between race 1 and race 2, but we'll be back with you in just a few moments' time on Apex Racing TV. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV. You were just seeing an advert for Apex Racing Simulators, and excitingly, Apex Racing Simulators now have their VRS Direct Force Pro pedals back in stock. I know a fair few people have been waiting for their opportunity in the UK to be able to purchase those pedals, but if you are in the UK and you want to get the VRS Direct Force Pro pedals, which are used by the ESL R1 competition, of course one of the biggest sim racing events going on in Saudi Arabia recently, using that equipment, along with Apex Racing Team and many other pro drivers. Do check out apexracingsim.com in order to buy those pedals, along of course with the wheelbase and the wheel rim as well. The wheel rim currently with a 15% discount, so it takes off about £150 from the price tag. So do check that out on apexracingsim.com. So well, we're just preparing at the moment for race 2, half an hour in length, and I always pretty much come up with this question, and it's maybe quite a dull question now at this point, but I always ask at this point, Ron, what's the chances of the front runners from race 1 going back to the front? It's always a different answer each week. How are you assessing it after the 25-minute race we just saw?
Oh man, well I'll tell you, we definitely saw a lot of aggression from some of these drivers, so I'm sure we're going to see some fisticuffs break out on track at least. So I think some of those drivers are definitely going to have it very hard to try and get back up at the front, so we'll have to wait and see how those drivers manage to cut through the field. Some of them could cut through the field like a hot knife through butter, others could cut through like they're trying to cut a piece of bread with a door stop. So we'll have to wait and see what some of these drivers' approaches are in the second heat tonight. Certainly I think it will be tough for these drivers to cut through the field, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Definitely. And I will just give another shout out as well to the Apex Racing Simulators Open Day, which is happening in a couple of weeks' time on the 2nd of September. And if you're based in the UK, if Corby is accessible to you in the East Midlands of England, do make sure to come down, because we've got lots of different things going on. We've got a LAN tournament going on with potentially up to 64 drivers. We've got Adam Smalley's Carrera Cup GB car on display. And of course, it's a fantastic opportunity for you to meet streamers, pro sim racers, myself, Tim Cox, and many others, absolute legends from Apex Racing TV. So do check out apexracingsim.com in order to see more details and to get your free ticket for that event. The grid then for this race 2, it is the same order, but the top 10 are inverted. Winkler on pole, followed by Fujita, then Castellozzi, Montini, Isaacson, Beifeld, Samarco, who's yet to get on the grid, Biasate, Rosseth, and Maya, who was your race 1 winner. However, Samarco and Bay not on the grid. What's gone on there?
Very interesting. I gotta imagine maybe some kind of technical issues. We'll have to wait and see what happened there. Tough for those drivers. I'll tell you, someone that might have a very good Heat 2 there. Unfortunately, Samarco won't, but I think Kazuki Fujita, who was kind of Samarco's only competition in the first race of the season, he's going to have a very good chance here in the Heat 2, starting second. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. Might try and go for the lead on lap 1. We'll just have to wait and see how this race develops.
Yeah, it will be a very important lap 1 of this race. Potential to be able to make a break for it if the drivers behind are battling. And so real an opportunity for particularly our front 2 to be able to get their first race wins of the season. Round the final corner, they lead now. Carl Winkler, who's been ever so consistent. This is his chance for a race win from pole position as away we launch for race 2 here at Jerez. It's a strong start once again for third place. Castellozzi already getting his nose ahead of Fujita, but that's not the job done quite yet. We've seen the inside lines of turn 1 very strong so far, and it looks like it's going to work out once again because Castellozzi staying alongside Fujita, not giving up on this one whatsoever. It's 3 wide in the background with Beifeld on the outside having to back out from any overtaking opportunity there, as still Castellozzi is not able to get this move stuck on Fujita, has to run it all the way around the outside. He's onto the gravel on the cold tyres, and Fujita holds on to second place, and that could be absolutely crucial. Behind them we've got the IGL coaching's car of Isaacson making a bit of contact. They make more contact, and now off into the gravel goes Biasati, and his chances of the race win surely diminished as they started.
Yeah, the bunch of drivers beating and banging. We saw Fujita and Castellozzi, who's now, I believe Castellozzi has finally gone past Fujita there for second position. But those 2 drivers were beating and banging each other coming through the first series of corners. So we might see some more beating and banging here with Fujita and this time Montini. So we'll have to see if those drivers are battling very hard. Fujita had a very bad start, and this was something I was going to mention at the start of last heat, and I'll get the chance to mention it now. I think all the drivers starting in the odd positions here at Jerez are in a really good position, because not only do they have the inside line going into turn 1, but they also have the outside at the start, so they're coming through the final hairpin, which is probably one of the tightest turns on all of this circuit. So I think they have the better chance at a good start there. And Fujita, he's had an off there. Yeah, went going through the hairpin. I gotta imagine there might have been contact there with either Castellozzi or Montini, and you can see Gunzelman pulling in as well. So 2 bad starts for 2 different drivers of the BMWs.
Not sure what happened with Gunzelman there. It must have, well, I think it's, yeah, I'm not sure. It must have been like a jump start or something, but that's tricky to do when you're further down the order. Yeah, disappointment there for the man who started in 13th position. So must have been in contact with Montini, I imagine, which sent our former P3 driver down the order. Up to P9 is Simon Moldecleve. Moldecleve up 3 places. We've had a fair few changes. David up a few places as Biasati now losing connection. I think he may have had a couple of issues in race 1 as well. Hopefully he will pop back into the server before too long. As he does do that, he's up into 11th position again. Beifeld versus Maya, and Maya's absolutely storming through the order. Beifeld, though, tricky driver to overtake, it looked like, from race 1, and Maya wasn't able to get the job done there. Already 3.5 seconds is the gap. He can certainly catch up from this position, does Anders, but he doesn't want the gap to the Mercedes up in the lead to open up too much further.
We got a replay here to see what happened with Fujita. I believe he might have had a bit of contact here that helped him. Yes, that was definitely contact there with Montini there, and Fujita, tough for him. He is going to go for a one-way trip off the circuit and into the tire barrier. Not really too much Fujita could do there. If we were dishing out penalties, I'd say Montini was probably partially responsible for that, because that was just like bump drafting in a GT3 car. You can barely do that in a stock car, let alone these GT3 cars with the crafted aerodynamic front and rear bumpers that they have. So tough for Fujita. He drops down the running order. A lot of drivers having very tough starts here. I mentioned how Fujita was going to have a very good race, and look what happened before they could even complete lap 1.
Yeah, it's another race meeting where he gets involved in an early incident, and I think this one's probably not his fault, albeit there is the potential that it could have been netcode across with quite a long ping, being from Japan, as Bass is off the circuit, and he's off the circuit again. Poor couple of corners there from the Scottish driver. He had got a good start, but that's given up about half the positions that he has gained so far. Vangen up 12 places so far, our highest gainer. Also Holt up 10 places, he's up into 25th now, as again Mai is trying pretty much the same move as he tried on the previous lap against Beifeld. This time he gets a bit more alongside, but he can't make it. Good news for these guys though is that they're actually catching up to Winkler. Winkler is not pulling away. Carl, who has finished, I believe, in the top 6 in every round so far this season, or every race so far this season, he's been absolutely knocking in the results, and it's going to be Samarco's biggest championship challenger. It looks like Samarco currently down in 32nd place, by the way, but he's not pulling away at the moment, and I think that means that pretty much anyone out of the top 8 could still win this race.
I really have to wonder if the issues that Samarco had at the start of this race not showing up on the grid could be the reason why Meyer isn't really forcing the issue, trying to get past Beifeld for 4th position. I'm sure Meyer is probably thinking, hey, Samarco having the issues that he had running right now outside the top 30, so I'm sure he's probably thinking, if I can just put together a clean race, I'll take a big gap out of the championship instead of just trying to go for a win and maybe getting spun trying to do an overtake. So we're seeing some real dicing here. That was a very interesting block there from Simon Moldecleve on Biasati there, but Biasati manages to claw that position. He had to work for that one really hard, but I don't think it's going to be over yet. I think Biasati is going to be a sitting duck going down the back straightaway when they exit turn 5, going into turn 6. We'll have to see how this battle develops in the next couple of seconds here.
This is a very narrow circuit, but the way that these drivers are battling, and this time, has he got him done? It's on the outside this time, so he's done the other way round compared to the previous couple of laps. I think Meyer had to get early on the brakes in order not to run to the back of Montini. Meyer took the normal racing line and was able to get ahead. That could be a very significant move, because dare I say, Montini, who hasn't got the draft of anyone up ahead, might well be easier to pass, and still the gap only at 3.4, but a slight mistake there from Anders has dropped him a couple of tenths or so. On the back of this train is Eric Rosseth, who's still looking to score a lot of points in the Pro-Am Championship should it end like this. So Winkler still only 1 second ahead, and hasn't really made enough of a gap in the early stages. Still got 23 minutes of this race to remain.
Now here's a real important question I have for you, Sam. So we saw Anders Meyer put together a very dominant drive in Heat 1 tonight, but right now he's sitting about 3 seconds behind the leader, with we're about 6 minutes into this race of a 30-minute Heat 2 here in the ARL GT3 trophy. So I gotta imagine, do you think Meyer has a shot to win this race? Because right now he's, as I said before, 3 seconds back in the lead, but he has more time to work with, and he might still have I believe he still has a very fast car. He's cut through the field quite nicely, started down in 10th, currently running in the 4th position. So do you think Anders Meyer has a real shot of winning tonight's race?
Yeah, I think he's certainly the favourite as it stands. Remember, he was over 4 seconds clear in race 1, and it's not as though Winkler's necessarily the second fastest driver out on circuit, but this will help the race leader, because Montini's defending, and now there's contact, and now Meyer is almost certainly not going to win this race, because Montini was trying to defend. Meyer was pretty much clear, but Montini kept his nose in there, and I think the question for the stewards will be, did Meyer cut across the inside there, or was it an understeered move there from Montini? Means that Beifeld has moved up to 3rd position in all of this. Beifeld just capitalising on so many issues ahead of him, and he's looking for 2 good results. Here it was from Montini, defending all the way to the inside, mile way later on the brakes, and well, he was fairly tight there, was Montini. Not necessarily on the curb, but close to the white line.
I would definitely have to chalk that up as a racing incident. I think that was just drivers trying to battle very hard and try and claw for every position, especially running in the positions they were. Definitely trying to stay ahead of one another. They're not going to give up positions even in this early stage of Heat 2. So I think that was just an unfortunate incident, but a racing incident there for Meyer. I'm sure his car, I don't think he picked up too much damage from that, but certainly his tires are going to be feeling like rectangles throughout the rest of this race. I'm sure. I don't think his chances of winning are entirely gone, but definitely going to be a lot harder. He's now 6 seconds back of the lead.
Yeah, potentially with a bit of damage as well, and yeah, like you said, those tyres will have suffered with the manoeuvre that was made, as Montini is once again defending. He's flashing his lights, not know at who. This time he's a fair bit later on the brakes. He knows the caution, or he knows the danger of the move on the outside. However, you can see Mike is right back with these drivers again, and I think we'll be throwing caution to the wind. He'll be frustrated, has already got a race win under his belt, but really felt like he could take another one. It's unlikely now, as we've said a couple of times, but I think he won't hesitate to send it on Rosseth. Maybe even the final corner on this lap might be his chance, as in the background, Biasati getting past Scaret. He's up to 8th.
I believe Stuart Wyness has had some kind of mistake as well. We saw him dropping out of the order, and yes, you can see, looks like a very bent up BMW there. You can see the other rear tire there. He nearly made contact with his... Yeah, nearly made contact there. I believe that might have been contact there. I think... Yeah, I believe Kieran Smart managed to go through there, missed his teammate's car by a by just a hair width distance there. I think he should probably just pull over to one side and escape. No real point in dragging that car. Actually, I say that these drivers do have a fast repair on their hands, so I'm sure that could be the reason why he's trying to haul that thing back to the pits. But with how wonky that thing is driving at the moment, that's really unsafe, so we'll have to see. Hopefully he can get back to the pits without taking anyone out. Certainly that would have been a really awkward drivers meeting there at Team Scotland if those two drivers crashed into each other there. So, speaking of crashing into each other there, we got 2 Porsches crashing into each other there. That was the Sim Racing Norway driver there of Kim Andre Bjorklund and Thomas Wangen there. Those 2 drivers made contact. The IGL Coatings E-Racing driver up 16 positions so far this race. Very fantastic drive from him so far. But made contact there with Kim Andre Bjorklund. They nearly made contact again there right before they hit the brakes going into turn 6. That was some very heated stuff there. I believe, hopefully, no hard feelings between those drivers as they claw for the last top 10 position in this Heat 2.
Christopher Crook nearly able to get past Simon Moldecleve in all of that to take the lead in the amateur race, but still in the same places. Moldecleve, who gained a few places, was up at 9th place actually earlier on, was Moldecleve. He slipped back down to 12th, but he's certainly not too far away from the positions he once held. And this train going back to Thomas Asfelg in 20th place. It is about an 8-car train as they slalom their way through this final section of corners. Meanwhile, Dedi Devlamnik dropping a couple of places. That's Livingston and Yanni getting past, and here comes Antonino Samarco as well. Going to go for the dummy. Has he got any space on the inside? Ends up having to back out of it there, did Samarco. He could get as high as maybe top 20. I think top 20 is very realistic for Samarco from here. I think top 15, probably a little bit too far.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Right now, currently running in the 29th position, but he's got quite a few drivers to get past. Certainly got to try and tick one of those boxes of the drivers he has to pass. Trying to get by Devlamnik there, going down the going for a move into turn 2. Manages to get that position there. So now Samarco moving up to 28th. But I will say he definitely does have the pace and certainly has the drive and tenacity to try and pull that off. But I think we'll have to wait and see. We're seeing some tough battling here between Montini and Meyer. Those 2 drivers made contact a couple laps ago, and they made contact in the same place pretty much just a few laps down the line. Yeah,
this is getting pretty angry between the 2 of them now. and Maya may have to go for the move in an alternative spot. He is much faster, I think, is Maya. Good half a second a lap faster. Just having to be a bit patient on the filter as they exited Pelliqui, and then of course through Alex Crivel and Ferrari and into Lorenzo, who won this event a fair few times, did the 5-time world champion, 3 times in the Premier Division, which of course still visits this Jerez circuit. Maya then, well, having that inside line completely blocked off, he might go for the inside after all, but just absolutely not relenting there was Montini, and the gap up to over 6 seconds now, as again another cutback. In this game, pretty proper personal now between the two of them, but Maya way more confident on the outside. Now there's contact between the two of them, and Maya does get ahead in all of it. Montini will try to bounce back, but already the opportunity is gone because Maya is sprinting away, and Anders will have a lot of satisfaction with getting that move done.
I'll tell you, at the end of Formula One broadcast, when they sit down in the other cool room to hear what the other podium drivers are thinking, we might have to just stalk the interview room if Montini and Meyer end up getting the chance to come in here for an interview later today, because they were very heated, and we see some more heated battling right behind them between Biasati and Roseth. Those drivers made contact as well. All of these drivers, they're not giving each other an inch. I will say that Meyer and Montini battle was very heated. Those drivers are definitely not on speaking terms, and probably will have to chat things out after tonight's race, certainly after Heat 2 tonight. That was some really heated stuff there for both Montini and Meyer, and Roseth and Biasati. These drivers are hauling the mail, and they are being and banging with each other. Certainly Thomas Wangen was a victim of some being and banging a few laps ago with Kim Andre Bjorklund, as he's looking to get the move done on his IGL Coatings teammate there, Scorette, and gets the move done for the 9th position going into the hairpin.
Shout out to Apex Racing Academy, one of the sponsors for this series. Of course, Apex Racing Academy providing data packs for a variety of cars on iRacing, including several of the GT3 cars, but also GT4s and other tin tops, single-seaters, rallycross cars, and prototypes. And if you want to get yourself a bronze, silver, or gold subscription, do visit apexracingac.com and check out the social medias as well, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for Apex Racing Academy. Thanks to them for supporting us and, of course, offering a few subscriptions to the top place drivers and teams come the end of the season. Banging up ahead of Scorette now, 18 places. Absolutely stunning stuff. And, well, he's only 10 seconds off the lead, is Thomas Wangen. You think what he could have achieved had he had a clean run of it. Frankly, I don't think he's going to be too far away from the podium places by the end of this one, because the top few places are pretty much all been the same. Like, the top 4 all very evenly matched. I think Meyer's a fair bit quicker. We'll wait to see if that 6-second gap does drop a whole lot. You can see he's already pulling away from Montini, which indicates that he's had a lot of pace available to him, which he hasn't been able to use. And so not entirely sure what's going to happen to the end here. Not sure if Meyer's going to be able to make up that 4-second gap in order to get himself in play for a few more battles by the end.
One thing I will say is that Thomas Wangen is in a very good position here right now, running in the 9th position. I just took a look at the live timing screen, and he's actually been one of the fastest drivers on the circuit last lap. So he managed to have fastest time, well, faster time than any of the drivers ahead of him, all 8 of the drivers ahead of him. So I think Wangen is definitely going to be in with a shout in the final few stages of this race as we approach the second. Well, we're now in the second half of this Heat 2 tonight, but I think it's definitely a far reach if you were to grab a podium. I think a podium would be really out of his reasonable expectations, but I think he could definitely grab a top 5 here. He definitely doesn't have has a lot of hard competition to deal with, would have to get through this battle here between Montini, Roseth, and Biasati, and we're seeing some more battling farther ahead. This is for the 2nd place position here between Castellozzi and Byfeld now. Byfeld is trying to push the issue here. Winkler, who's been running pretty dominant all throughout this race, I just checked, his pace is not too good compared to the drivers behind him, so I'm sure he's very happy that Castellozzi and Byfeld are battling right now, but I'm sure Byfeld wants to press the issue, because I think if Byfeld gets past Castellozzi, he might have a really good shot to win this thing.
And watch out for Isaacson's lunge into the final corner. I've seen him pull it off a couple of times, and I feel like he's going to do it again here because he is ever so close. Not quite flat out through the Alex Crivet corner. He's pretty much flat out through Ferrari. And then, of course, it's Lorenzo. Is there going to be the dive from Isaacson? No, he was not close enough. He lost a bit of time on those couple of corners leading up to it, and so he couldn't make the move. I'm not sure Byfeld's chances of passing Castellozzi. I don't want to be harsh to Marcus because he has made up a lot of places tonight. He gained, I think, 5 places in race 1. He's up 3 places in race 2. But he hasn't really gone for many dives, unlike pretty much every other driver. He is flashing his lights, and that's a bit of an intimidation tactic, so maybe we are going to see a lunge from him soon. But I think it's most likely going to be a mistake from Castellozzi rather than an ambitious overtake from Byfeld, honestly.
We'll just have to wait and see how the battling is. Certainly, Byfeld has been a very clean competitor. He's respected a lot of the drivers that he's raced against, but he definitely doesn't mind getting his elbows out and trying to push the issue when he wants to get past him. Look at this man, Eric Roseth, is pushing the issue here on Montini as they go side by side, very close there to contact as they go into that turn. That's definitely contact there with a very last-minute dive there from Biasati on Roseth there. That was very, very hard contact there. I don't think either of them have damage, but I'm sure Roseth is not going to be very happy with his competitor there.
That was late. I mean, I'm not entirely sure about that one. Of course, the 2 teammates, GT Esports Racing Team Blue, up in 6th and 7th now, so that will give them a good opportunity to work together. This one maybe will get a bit heated. Roseth needs to make sure they keep the score. It's been a fantastic day for Roseth. He'll be near the championship summit with the amount of points that he's achieved. As there goes Isaacson, and he did do it at the final corner. So that is the move done there for Isaacson. And he wasn't close enough to the lap before, but once he did get the chance, he absolutely went for it. And now he's got Castellozzi to overtake. And this is still very winnable for him. 10 minutes to go, 2 seconds or 2.6 seconds off the race leader. Every corner that passes that he's sat behind Roberto Castellozzi, though, he is losing an opportunity to make up that gap to the core sim racing driver who leads.
Isaacson definitely has a drive to try and score this win. A lot of the drivers up towards the front. Castellozzi, he's managed to defend from those positions. Right now he's actually dropped back a little bit of Winkler running at the front, but Castellozzi, he's shown good pace. Isaacson has definitely shown the drive to get moves done, and Byfeldt is probably one of the fastest of these drivers as he's very close to the back of Isaacson, so we might see a move here going into turn 6. He stays behind his fellow Porsche there. So right now, Byfeldt, Meyer, Isaacson, and Castellozzi all have a really good shot here. We'll just have to wait and see. We're seeing some more dicing here with Roseth and Biasati there. Roseth gets pushed off there. He's stuck in the dirt there. Yeah, I gotta imagine he might have picked up some kind of damage. He had to contact a couple laps ago and certainly had contact there. I think he just kind of got pushed off the track a little bit and got stuck in the marbles there and had to go a little bit slow to avoid understeering off the track and going into the gravel. So Roseth, a very tough corner for him as he now drops down towards the end of the top 10.
Also changes behind as well. Something's happened to Christopher Crook, and something's happened as well to Isaacson, because Byfeldt's up into 6th place. Byfeldt's done it again. 3rd time tonight that 2 drivers have been battling ahead of him. And it's the 2nd time that it's been Isaacson who's been battling ahead of him. And he just goes underneath the pair of them. At least that's what I imagine has happened. And Isaacson can't get through here. He's still in 3rd position. But Isaacson, I think, went for his customary final corner maneuver. And Byfeldt has just taken the normal racing line. That is a long way. Oh, yeah, that's way too far back there for Nils Eric. And Byfeldt easily moves past. That time, Castellozzi, I think, knew what was coming and took a very alternative racing line to cover off the move. But that put him in the Norwegian driver's path under brakes.
I'll tell you, these competitors are absolutely ruthless. We're seeing tough defending here. Very, very tough stuff there from Castellozzi and Meyer. They were swapping positions there, swapping sides of the track while flipping from one side of the track to another like you'd flip a burger there. So that was some really tense stuff there as Castellozzi has dropped back he's going to lose another position here, because I'm sure Meyer is going to want to press the issue here to try and get up to the 4th position. Meyer, I'm sure, is still a bit upset about the incident that befell him a couple laps ago, so I'm sure he's looking for redemption here, and he might find it in a move on Castellazzi here. He looks for it there, but just that corner like that, that's really fast and really a very large, long sweeper there. He's not going to find it there, but he might going into the final corner. He looks around the outside there, and he's very close. He's going to try and look for the switchback there. Castellazzi went a little bit wide in the second half of that final corner, and they're going to go side by side going down the start-finish straightaway as we see Montini now.
Is that damage? Or is it a drive through maybe? We'll see if he stops. As Meyer, has he been able to get this one done? No one's been able to pull off the move on the outside turn 1 so far tonight, but I think Anders Meyer might just be the first one who has done it. But still, he's not giving up. Is the esports driver.
Oh,
now there's contact.
No!
Meyer has to slow it up, and Castellazzi goes off the circuit. And I think, frankly, from first judgment there, honestly, Ron, it looked like Castellazzi just opened up the steering too much on the exit of turn 2, and that was how contact was made, quarter panel contact.
And I'll tell you, I don't even think that was intentional from Castellazzi there. I think it was just moves of desperation that we've seen all throughout tonight's race, all throughout Heat 1 and Heat 2, so a lot of drivers being very desperate, very impatient. I'm sure Castellazzi was seeing the writing on the wall there, as he could have lost another position there from Meyer, as he did with a very unfortunate incident. I believe we're going to get a replay here to see what happened. I don't even think Castellazzi meant to do this. I think it was just a move of desperation. They were trying to push Meyer off. You can see him beating him, banging there, and then a bit of netcode there as well. So I think with that netcode, I don't think they would have made as severe contact as they did, but still tough for Castellazzi as he drops down the running order and is hopelessly out of contention tonight.
And that is exactly what Winkler needed, because Meyer, if he was able to get through that position quickly, he was on course to catching up to Winkler. With over half a second a lap he was gaining, he would have caught by the end of the race. But instead it's pretty much just these top 3 who remain. Winkler out in the lead. Dare I say Byfeld is the second fastest, and Isaacson certainly the most capable at making overtakes. And therefore I think this top 3 could not be posed much better. But Byfeld, with a half-second gap, there's no chance for Isaacson to be able to get past from this position. By the way, top of the amateur drivers still is Simon Moldecleve, and top of the Pro-Am drivers is now Eric Rosser, who I think that would be his second Pro-Am victory of the night, only just ahead of Alexander Scuret. Could see Scuret up there for IGL Coatings. As Montini has just got past Chris Crook. This is a very tight battle. Damage on Crook's car certainly, and Montini moving his way back through the order, and that is him up to 24th place now. I can't remember what happened to Montini earlier on. It's been a very chaotic race.
I believe he was in the pits. We're not sure if it was for damage or a drive-through penalty. We believe it might have been a drive-through penalty, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But a lot of drivers having an absolutely hectic race. Certainly one man that hasn't had a very hectic race is Carl Winkler up in the front, but I think he might have a bit of a challenge on his hands as we're in the final 4 minutes of this race. Byfeld is now closed up. It's about a second between those 2 drivers, and then you have Isaacson right behind Byfeld as well, so we might have a 3-car battle for the lead in the final few laps of this race. This is going to be a very heated battle here, folks. Winkler has had a pretty quiet race, all things considered. He's stayed up at the front, started from reverse grid pole, and has just really been in command of this race. But I think Marcus Byfeld is going to be definitely a man on a mission. He proved himself quite well when he made his series debut a couple weeks ago back at Road America. Did even better at Watkins Glen, and now I think he's going to try and look for his first overall win here in the ARL GT3 Trophy Series.
Would be a fantastic result, and really only a matter of time till it happens, and he's not far away from doing it. But yeah, what a downturn in pace recently for Winkler. 9/10 of a second slower that last lap than he was compared to his best lap time so far in this event, but a bit better this lap. And it's happened again at turn 2 and turn 3, and I think it's Castellazzi again. I think he was the one who had that incident earlier on, and Hawk has been able to get underneath, and Castellazzi continues to drop down, and he's now down as low as 19th place. Asfark having a good time of it actually, isn't he? He's up 10 places from his race start, up into 18th position now, thanks to Arnaud. by the way, for subscribing to the channel, as Nick Yanni is ahead of Montini. So a few of these G esports drivers out of position, trying to recover as many points as they can.
Just total chaos. I feel bad for Castellozzi, man. He was putting together a very good drive up in the top 5, was running in second for a vast majority of this race. And thanks to a few incidents here and there, he's now barely clinging on to a top 20 position. So you got to feel bad for him. No one, whatever you do, no one send that man always look on the bright side of life after this, because he would not be very happy if he got that sent to him. But certainly one of these drivers that we see on screen now might enjoy that song after this, because they all have a very good shot to win this. Carl Winkler, he's been up at the front all of Heat 2. He's put together a very good drive in that Mercedes, but he's kind of a sitting duck at this point to Beifelt and Isaacson behind. I think all three of these drivers have a very good shot to win it at this point. I'm sure Anders Meyer in the 4th position is probably hoping that all three of these drivers crash into each other in the final few stages of this race so he can grab his 2nd heat race win of the night. We'll just have to wait and see how this race develops in the final closing moments of this Heat 2.
Let us know in chat who you think is going to be able to clinch this one. Isaacson not yet close enough for that customary final corner move. I do feel like if Isaacson goes for the dive, then that will drop them too far off Winkler, and Winkler will be uncatchable at that point. So probably just the top 2 with a realistic chance. And I honestly cannot remember Beifelt making a move so far tonight. It's just him always just passing drivers as they make mistakes in front of him, which has served him very well. But I don't feel like Carl Winkler, despite how much he is struggling, he is going to make that same mistake. So we don't know where Marcus is necessarily going to go for the move. Will it be into the final corner? You can see he's got much more confidence in pretty much every single one of these turns. He's a bit too far back this time, and it will just be a one-lap shootout. We've had some absolute close finishes over the years at this Jerez circuit, and on its first attempts, or first visit for Apex Racing League, we could see another one. It's caught to a second with 1 tour to go.
Mentioned how Marcus Beifelt hasn't really gone for too many overtakes in his time so far here in the ARL GT3 trophy, but I think a win is a win. I'm sure Marcus Beifelt is seeing that top spot of the podium right ahead of him. If he can just get the move done on Winkler, he's going to try and look for it. I'm sure he's applying pressure to the back of Winkler. I'm sure Isaacson is applying pressure to the back of him. All of these drivers are very close, but Winkler managed to pull quite a nice gap there as he went through the first series of corners, went through the first 5 corners, and has managed to pull over a ½ second gap as those 2 drivers behind are going side by side. I think this might be very good for Winkler. He is definitely going to be enjoying these drivers battling with each other for the runner-up position. Isaacson goes for the move. There's nearly contact there as it goes through the hairpin of turn 6. But these drivers are continuing to battle as Winkler is pulling away.
And Beifelt holds on. Isaacson wasn't able to complete it. And there should be no more changes to the end of this race. Winkler coming very slowly now through the final sector. He knows that he does not need to do anything more in order to take a long-awaited race victory. The man who's finished in the top 6 every race so far this season, the only man who has had that level of consistency so far. And 2nd place in the championship going into this round, and with the poor round for Sir Marco, this will ignite his championship charge. And at long last, Core Sim Racing and Carl Winkler from pole position will take the race to victory at Jerez. It is Winkler who takes it in Spain ahead of Beifelt, Isaacson. Roseth will be top of the Pro-Am drivers, and Muldercleave the top of the AMs.
Certainly some of these drivers, definitely the ones in the pro category, are feasting on the fact that Samarco had a really bad Heat 2 here right now. He's down in 30th. The spinner back there, I believe that's one of the Sim Racing Norway competitors there. I believe that's that's Asfelg. My apologies there. That's made the mistake there, or is it? That is no, that's Gordon Howe.
Past the pair then was Otterholt. So Otterholt managed to get past both Hawk and Verm, because Verm had to get on the brakes as the other driver rejoins, as Hawk rejoined the circuit. And just went straight round the outside of the pair then, did Otterholt, and managed to take a very satisfying 19th position. And we might see what happened to Gordon Hawk. I think a lot of the drivers were struggling with tyres by the end. Their lap times, well, most drivers were over ½ a second off what they were doing earlier on.
Contact.
And it was actually contact with the BMW of maybe Turoshki? Maybe not Turoshki. Not sure.
Now let me
Maybe
take a
Asphalt.
quick look at the standings. Let me.
There was a
take
lot of
quick
BMWs
look
in
there.
front
I believe
of
that
him.
was Asphalt. Yes, that was him. So that was contact there with Asphalt and Gordon Haug that cost Haug dearly with one corner left in the race.
Yeah, disappointment for him, but well, what a first visit to Jerez for Apex Racing League. Again, I was hyping this circuit beforehand. There are a lot of hairpins, and I think what we've learned from today is that hairpins invite ambitious overtakes. I think that's what we saw throughout tonight. Few of them pulled off, few of them were not, but there were certainly some creative lines out there and some creative racecraft in order to get the best position. And it was Carl Winkler who got the best position in race 2. A big points haul for him tonight, ahead of Marcus Beifeld and Niels Erg Isaacson. And Asmaya will come away from tonight as the highest point scorer of anyone. And that is very much deserved, seeing that he's been playing pretty much second fiddle to Samarco this whole season. Then it was Thomas Vangen, Christian Biasati, Grosseth, Alexander Skuret, Ketil Larsen and Kim Andre Bjorklund in 10th position. Simon Multicleve was top of the amateur drivers. I'll let those other positions cycle through for you now, as I give another shout out to Virtual Racing School. Big thanks to them. Of course, everyone knows their software, Virtual Racing School, providing data packs for a very wide variety of cars, both in road racing and oval racing in iRacing. But of course, they do also have their sim racing hardware as well, with their pedals, their wheelbase and their wheel rim used by the ESL R1 competitions and also by Apex Racing Team as well. It is pretty much the best stuff that you can get when it comes to finding the pace that you need in sim racing, and so do please check out apexracingsim.com in order to order your Virtual Racing School equipment. And of course, a reminder from what I said earlier on, pedals are back in stock on apexracingsim.com, and there is 15% off on the wheel rim for a limited time. Let's have a few interviews with our drivers, and yeah, first up we will drag up. Well, yeah, I'm going to be selfish because I want to have a chat with. Oh, I don't know. No, you know what, Ron? I'll let you have a. You decide. You decide who you want to drag up first.
Well, I'll tell you what. I interviewed this man at the opening race of the season. I'm going to interview him again. David Vey impressed me in the opening race of the season and had a very quiet race today, but still brings it home in a pretty decent position. David Vey, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth, my friend. How's the race from your end?
To be honest, chaos and trying to save points. In the before the race, I already saw that the BMW will struggle on the track. For some reason, I wasn't able to find the pace, and I saw that in the test race with the other BMWs, nobody was able to get good positions, and it was sliding a lot. So in the qualifying, I was pretty happy with that P18. It was pretty solid for me, and then in the first race, I had some accident with Yannick. I want to say sorry for that. It was, I thought that I was alongside, then I rear-ended him. So I don't know. After that, in the second race, I missed the start. It showed me that I still have 16 seconds left, and then it showed me that I missed the start, and then I was trying to come back and gain 7 positions, and ended in P29, I think.
It's a very interesting point you mentioned, because we saw a lot of drivers miss the start of the heat too, so something very strange happening there. Now, you mentioned how you felt confident in your car during qualifying, then had some struggles in the race, and one thing we definitely saw a lot of throughout the 2 heats tonight was a lot of tail, a lot of train action going on with a lot of cars, and something that can be created by that is a lot of dirty air. So could you explain to the viewers how much the dirty air can affect these cars?
The dirty air is a really big problem when you are in the high speed corners. It can mess around with the aero, and the car feels much heavier. It's easy to understeer and go off track. But with the car, my biggest struggle wasn't with the dirty air, I guess. My biggest problem was that was in the last before the last double right-hander. There is this section. There was a section where when I was braking, I completely lost the rear, and I was sliding there a lot. I spawned once in the second hit, so yes, that was my main struggle.
David Vey, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Had a very dramatic race tonight. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
Yes, my family and my team, Fendi Racing. They are a really good team, and they support me in that as well. So thank you to them.
David Vey, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Hope to see you throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was David Vey there, one of our front-running amateur drivers, and still will be near the top of the championship after tonight. I'm going to have a chat with a very happy man. Carl Winkler joins us now in the commentary box after rudely interrupting his conversation with some of his fellow drivers, I'm sure. Carl, congratulations. It's been a long time coming, but you've got it done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How was it out in the lead in that race too? Because it's, dare I say, like you weren't seemingly necessarily the fastest guy in that race too, but certainly Anders seemed to be the class of the field tonight. It must have been pretty nerve-wracking having 5 or 6 very quick drivers sat behind you for most of that race.
Yeah, I was looking into the relative a lot. I was pretty slow today, actually. If I look into the practice and qualifying session, my pace was nowhere. Might be related to car and track combination, but yeah, let it be it. So in the races, I tried just to keep it clean, don't get involved in any crashes, try to bring it home. I went a bit lucky in both races, actually, and yeah, I mean, it worked out. It's pretty much the case for the whole season at the moment. I'm not really quick, or not as quick as the top guys, but somehow managed to sneak all the points. So I will try to keep doing it.
Seemed to be getting pretty tense near the end of the race there. I saw you were dipping into 39s over the last few laps. Was that a bit of tire drop off, or was that just managing the gap knowing that you had a limited time left in the race?
No, the traction was nowhere in the end. I was on the edge the whole race, looking into the relative, and yeah, nearly ran out of tires. So I'm pretty lucky that it ended there with the flags. I don't think I could have done like 1 or 2 more laps to keep the guys behind. The pace was dropping a lot, so it just came in time.
Definitely. Well, we're really pleased that you managed to get that race victory, Carl. It was very well deserved. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, as usual, my teammates, you guys for the broadcast as well, the other drivers on the grid who drove with me or against me, because everyone, at least in my range, drove pretty clean. So I appreciate that a lot. And nevertheless, I want to thank my car, because I insulted it a lot due to the bad pace, but it did the job in the end. So yeah, I'm pleased.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of Mercs near the top of the field, so you very much represented the brand well tonight. Thanks for having a chat with us, Carl, and best of luck. You can keep it up for next week.
Yeah, thanks guys, have a good night.
That was Carl Winkler, Course Sim Racing driver, who was top of the drivers in race 2 this evening. Ron, who would you like to check up next?
I think the driver that I really want to talk to, because I like to ask some of these drivers about why there was a lot of chaos throughout tonight's race. Certainly this man was a victim of the chrome horn tonight. Thomas Wangen, who we have...
Hello.
I might have brought you in at an opportune time there, Thomas. How's the race from your end there, bud?
Race 1 was a shitfest. Race 2 was all in or nothing. So, yeah.
Right, I appreciate your honesty there, my friend. So we saw throughout a lot of this, throughout a lot of the action tonight, there was a lot of drivers being a bit more impatient than we've seen throughout this season. Do you think the nature of this track was conducive to that, or do you think the reason why there was a lot of impatience this evening was just down to the format?
I think today's race built up a lot of frustration. For the guys, especially one team is a very hard fighters and a lot of contact. I don't need to mention anyone. Yeah, so that's why. And somebody told me this track is hard to pass, but I think I started on P27 or P28 in the last race and ended up P5, so it's definitely possible.
Definitely a lot of carnage throughout tonight's race. Probably the most amount of chaos and most amount of being and banging that we've seen all throughout this season. Do you think there's you think there's a possibility that we'll see that next week?
100% for sure. Take a look at the driving standards on the rest the races before. It's not good, unfortunately. So yeah, I think everyone needs to go in themselves and yeah, for practice a little bit more in traffic, because yeah, I'm definitely one of them. Gonna go inside myself and think a little bit more what I do. Yeah, my race 1 was destroyed in T1, and Sam told us, Lee told us earlier today, be careful in T1, and yeah, first thing happened, 3 wide, 1 out.
I definitely saw a lot of carnage all throughout tonight's race. We'll have to wait and see how things are in 1 week's time at Road Atlanta. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. We appreciate your insight. Anyone that you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
Of course, you guys, as always, hanging out with us, guys. My team, IGL Coatings, our sponsors, IGL Coatings as well. Sande Trafikkskole and Elvari. And yeah, again, thank you for taking time for this one. I understand this is not the best one, so yep.
Thomas, thank you very much for that interview. We appreciate. Hope to see you more throughout the rest of the season, my friend.
Of course.
That was Thomas Bangen joining us there, gaining 22 places in Race 2. Then we'll try to have a quick interview with our last couple of drivers, because they did both have very good results. First up, I'll drag up Anders Meyer. Anders, congratulations. What a performance tonight. I mean, your pace was absolutely leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else on track. I mean, you must be very pleased that this Jerez circuit was added to the sim, because you seem to be a master at it.
Yeah, a bit mixed feelings. The pace was good. I don't know how, but I haven't tested the Porsche that much before. And on Sunday, something happened. I just understood the car, and it's not gonna be that much better than the BMW on a lot of tracks, but at this track, it's really, really good. So I think I had driven for about 20 minutes, and I was 4/10 ahead of the BMW. So yeah, the car was really good, but obviously my first race at this track, first time I practiced for it. Struggled a bit in the beginning, but when I got into the Porsche, it was fine. Obviously race 2 was not fun at all, but yeah.
Yeah, talk us through that race 2, because it seemed like you had some pretty tough battles with the GE Sports drivers throughout. Yeah, it got pretty feisty out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun fighting, but when you get squeezed out every time you're side by side, it's not fun anymore. So I don't know. It's not the first time. I'm not gonna say too much, but yeah, it's a bit frustrating. I love racing in Apex. It's always been so clean. But there's tendencies this season that it's repeating accidents or incidents, kind of similar incidents every time. So I don't know, but overall, great team result. Really proud of Eric as well, doing the double Pro-Am victory. It's amazing to see how fast he and others in the AM team has evolved. So really fun to see.
Absolutely, yeah, really good to see him progressing as much as he is. Well, thanks for coming up and having a chat with us, Anders. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, obviously the team, Racing Lab Esports, and our owners, Racing Lab, KTM, Vinstra Motorsports Arena, and CarX.no. And as always, and KTM, if I didn't say. And as always, you guys for putting on a great show. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, very satisfying that both you and Carl got race victories tonight, and it was both definitely only a matter of time for both of you. And yeah, hopefully you can keep it up next time.
We will try. Thank you.
Anders Meyer there, your top place driver in race 1. I think we're on chance for a very quick interview with Eric Rosseth, our Pro-Am winner tonight.
Alrighty.
To round out.
Yeah, I think I'll have to. That was like the most pathetic knuckle break in the world, but here we go. Speedrunning an interview with Eric Rosseth. Eric, you had a very interesting race, got involved in a few schisms here and there. How's the race?
The first sprint was amazing. The feature was so-and-so, I have to say. There were some questionable battling there.
I definitely saw a lot of carnage all throughout this race. Drivers giving each other the chrome horn, as I would say, from my rural American hick background. But saw a lot of carnage all throughout tonight's race. I asked Thomas Wang in this earlier this broadcast, and I'll ask you as well. Do you believe the nature of this track is the reason why drivers were a bit more impatient tonight, or do you think it was really down to the abridged format here tonight?
I don't believe it's the track's fault. There are some drivers on the grid that are a bit impatient and might go for some sense that they shouldn't go for, to be honest. So I believe it comes down to the drivers, not the track.
Definitely see your perspective on that. You experienced it firsthand throughout tonight's race. Eric, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
I need to give thanks to my team, of course, team sponsors, and also friends and family for supporting. And also you guys for delivering a great broadcast and a great league.
Thank you very much for that compliment there, Eric. Thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Hope to see some cool races from you throughout the rest of the season. Take care, my friend.
I'll do my best. Take care.
So that was our double Pro-Am race winner there. Eric Rosseth with a good points haul this evening. Well, that pretty much rounds us off then on Apex Racing TV for tonight. But if you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel so you can check out all the broadcasts coming up in the coming days. Several different series, including Formula 3s, Porsche Cups, Spec Racer Fords, Radicals, and many others. So do subscribe to the channel in order to watch all of them, and check out our social media pages as well on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And once again, to check out apexracingsim.com in order to get that 15% off offer for the wheel rims from Virtual Racing School, and then also their pedals are back in stock, and you can find details for the Apex Racing Sim Open Day as well. But for now, for myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Ron Mons and from Lee Thompson, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you back next week.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.